The one question in overwhelming majority in my comment sections to any of my videos has for a while been the Windows version. When is it coming out? Will there be a Windows version? And stuff like this. I haven't been able to answer you because I didn't know. Now I know, since it is out. It's out in a very, very limited first version for you to dip your toes into the vast ocean that is MIDI Guitar 3, especially in comparison to any of the softwares or hardwares that you've been using up until now. So it's not meant to work as a plugin yet. This is just a standalone version for you Windows users to acquaint yourselves with stuff like assigning pedals to properties or parameters within all the software that you might use already. I'm going to go on now to suggest some of the software that might be interesting for you to try out. I saw a guy suggesting that you try the Yangtze creator software. It is a plugin and it's free, so it's absolutely usable within the MIDI Guitar software. So it's a great place to start if you want to do that, especially if you have something to compare with. You might have a jam stick on your own, and this is a great way to compare if the jam stick in itself has any additional value to the setup, or perhaps it might work just as well with a regular guitar that you already have straight into the MIDI Guitar 3 software and then open up the jam stick creator as a plugin. But try any and all of the MPE plugins that are out. You can try KHs Phaseplant. They have some interesting patches from Expressive E that are made for Osmose, and anything made for Osmose is especially interesting because they focused more on stuff like the mod wheel instead of the slide motion that is perhaps harder for us to recreate as MIDI guitarists. We need something extra, we need some accessory for us to use that association in a Roli keyboard, but anything made for the Osmose is more akin to how we're setting things up with a MIDI guitar. So you might want to look for Noisy 2 perhaps. It's a noise-based physical modeling synth from Expressive E. If you already own some of the Roli products, you perhaps already own some of the MPE synths that you want to use here as well. There are some really interesting things you can do with guitar, for instance, that is coming out of the Roli Equator right now. If you just do something with the settings there. So in this video, I just want to tell you Windows guys that, okay, something is here and it's only going to get better from here. So if you're interested in coming along from the very beginning, this is the first version out. Please join in and have as much fun as all the Mac guys that have used this up until now. It's obviously no problem for me to use all kinds of MIDI legacy instruments if I combine them with a breath controller or an expression pedal or anything. The major advantage with MIDI Guitar 3 is the ease with which we can connect any of those controllers to whatever parameter inside these instruments we want to. But here I want to suggest that you start thinking about using these chains that you have now, combining these and making up your own instruments. I've gotten a lot of questions about what would be the ultimate acoustic modeler MPE instrument. There is really not one instrument like that. You can look at Pianoteq. That's one of the best acoustic modelers that are out that is MPE capable. I have their acoustic nylon guitar. While on the subject of physically modeled acoustic instruments and MPE, let's acknowledge the upside of the retuning that can be done in real time. I can actually add some sort of software on the side or within MIDI Guitar 3 to retune my whole setup as I'm playing. I can tune in a particular chord or a particular scale or in any sort of weird micro tuning that you can imagine. And those are really the upsides of using MPE for physically modeled instruments. It's not that much the precision with which we can emulate other instruments. If you want perfect copies of other instruments, you still should go with samplers, I guess. And there are a few really, really good sample libraries for stuff like Kontakt, and Kontakt can be set up to accept polyphonic bends. So you have awesome stuff like Straight Ahead's JB145, my favorite jazz Archtop guitar of all times. But here I'm more interested in amalgamation and combinations of different instruments into your own personal favorites. Something like this is not a real acoustic instrument in any way. This is a combination of two instruments. First of all, I have Objekt, Reason's Objekt here. And that's a preset called attached string. You hear that there's another component as well. The one that comes in later in the sound. That's from Noisy 2, from Expressive E. I mentioned it before. If we listen to it in isolation, it sounds like this. And I can change stuff like when I want this effect to come in. I can sort of delay that effect. I can prolong that effect. And I can exaggerate that by just moving some of the parameters around. And again, it's when we combine this with other kinds of instruments, it becomes interesting. This is where it becomes borderline acoustic. It's obviously not a real acoustic sound, it's something else, but it's not obviously a synth sound either. So by changing any of these two, I get a completely new sound. And I can decide on whether or not I want this coiny sound to come in at all, depending on how long I'll press my notes for. So if I just use very short notes, I will get none of those coiny sound at all. And this is part of what really makes me enjoy the soundscaping in MIDI Guitar 3. There are so many possibilities, and now I'm not even connecting stuff. Now I'm not even using the modulators to decide how much I want to come in and at what point. Here's another great example of what you can do in MIDI Guitar 3 that I don't think you can do in other environments. A standard MPE instrument is normally set to use a pitch bend range of 48. So that's what is the default setting in MIDI Guitar 3. So here in this clip I'm using two different instruments, and it's really two different kinds of instruments. On the one hand, I'm using the Arturia's new Yangtze, and it's very much an MPE instrument, at least as much as the Arturia instruments are MPE instruments. But the other instrument, it is a Dr. Xiao flute from the ancient flute collection Suonopuro. It's a contact instrument, and it's very much not an MPE instrument. But I play these together and have no problems controlling both with the same kind of gestures. And that's mainly because I can set the different pitch bend ranges on the different instruments individually on the different chains. So as far as the controller goes, this is way ahead of everything else that I know of. Here's another pretty unique feature I don't think you'll find in most other controllers. For this clip, I've connected an expression pedal to the tempo of the song. So the expression I'm controlling obviously with the breath controller, but the tempo I'm controlling with a pedal on the side of that. So I can in real time decide on really precise changes to the tempo in the song while playing it. And this is something completely different from having to draw some lines in some DAW to have them execute some sort of tempo change while trying to play to it. This becomes way more organic when you do stuff like choking a tempo mid-song. Experiment with stuff like that as well, because there are so much small things that can become big things if you use them right. So if we want to talk about this combination, I have this that you already heard. If I play this very gently, it's only the acoustic part that comes through, and that's the Orange Tree Evolution Boutique Acoustic. It's a really nice guitar, and it also has this polyphonic bends to it, so I don't need to set it up as an MPE instrument inside a contact. But if I play with a little more intent, then I get this breakthrough, I get this overdrive that comes through, and that's the Equator guitar that lies in the background. This is a combination that I've picked up from listening to Alan Hines and stuff like this, with really nice acoustic parts, and then going into just breaking up and then smoothly going back, and also the slide part. So these are MIDI instruments that really works with stuff like a slide gesture on guitar. And of course this is news for MIDI Guitar 3, and this is news because it works together with MPE. The only thing you need to do is actually to go in and change it from being a monophonic instrument to polyphonic, and perhaps pull back on some of the distortion. I don't like how much it's overdriven to begin with. To conclude this video, to not make it too long, this is just an introduction to the PC version really. So I would like to recommend you starting with stuff like Surge XT, for instance. It's free. Vital is also an MPE synth. I think that works really well. UVI has some really interesting MPE stuff nowadays. On top of that, you can also make your own MPE instruments, at least within Falcon. To all you PC guys, the only thing I can say right now is welcome, and see you later. Bye.